by the writer's effect? What is your understanding?
Ma'am, the effect of the effect that the writer creates in his writing on the reader.
Absolutely. And how do writers do that?
Imagery
Through imagery. And what do you mean by imagery?
that describes a scene
Okay.
like um, dark, dark forest.
Absolutely. And how you're going to verbalize that? What else comes in imagery? Okay. It's okay. You can try your best. You don't have to give me the correct answers or expect that I'm going to just give the correct answers only. We all learn through mistakes as well. So,
Ma'am, imagery also describes a situation, I think.
absolutely. Okay. All right. What else comes in? Okay. So you said some words. You said the word dark. Why the word dark? You gave it that as an example, right? So, what exactly makes you think so?
It's showcasing how the scene is.
How the scene is. Okay, so the way it looks, right? Then we also talk about the way things appear, that's the looks, but how they sound, how they feel, how they are to the senses of touch, and how are they to the senses of smell. So all the sensory details, figurative language, vivid verbs, uh, adjectives, adverbs, they all play a part in creating the writer's effect, right? So I was thinking to begin with this. Okay, so let's take a look at this slide. Let me just share it with you. Right. Okay, so before you move on to writing your full length proper writer's effect answers, you are supposed to pick three examples from one paragraph and three examples from another paragraph to write your writer's effect question, right? Is that so?
Yes, you also shared this.
I shared it on Google Classroom. Did you see that? On Drive?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's basically for you to refer to it at a later stage also. So let me just take you to the slide and we're going to go over this. So first of all, let's assume something. Um, we do not know what is writer's effect. We do not know what are we doing here, but we can just really understand and agree on the fact that writers use language to convey meaning. Is that so? Step number one, right? Now, what is language? Language includes words, phrases, clauses, sentences, and then paragraphs, and then um, groups of paragraphs, right? So it is all language, words, sentences, punctuations, uh, all of that is language. So they convey meaning. So if the writer wants to say Jim was angry, uh, the writer can show it in many ways. The writer can even directly say Jim was angry, right? The writer can easily say Jim was angry. But then the writer uses one writer can show it through Jim's actions, another writer can show through Jim's different actions. One writer can say, "Oh, Jim stormed out of the classroom." Another writer can say, "Jim slammed his books on the table." Jim slammed the door shut. Right? All of these actions show that Jim was angry. As simple as that, right? So, all these writers were conveying the same thing, they meant the same thing, but what did they do? What was the different thing here? The meaning was same, but what was different? Yes, Niall?
Ma'am, but the description was different.
The discussion was different? Okay. What do you mean by that?
Ma'am, I said description.
The description. Oh, yes, the description is different. They chose different things, different ways to describe the writer's um, the same meaning, the writer's actions, the writer's feelings. They chose different ways to describe the writer's actions or feelings. They all meant the same thing. Jim was angry. That was the main idea. But then they all chose different ways to explain. And each writer wanted to create or highlight a different aspect of Jim's personality. Each writer wanted to create a certain effect on the readers. All right. Now, let's see how we need to approach this particular question. So, there are certain basics we need to get right when it comes to the writer's effect question. One thing that I saw in your report was also that you need to work on the shades of meanings, words, shades of meanings, and connotations when explaining the images in the writer's effect, right? So by default, you are given a paragraph that has got rich descriptions in it, which includes vivid imagery. Imagery is basically what? It's a combination of sensory details and figurative language. It also includes wonderful vivid verbs. Vivid verbs means those action verbs that have got that create a mental picture in your head. Okay, a strong visual effect. They create a stronger visual effect. So vivid verbs are there. We've got adjectives there. Can you just type them as I'm speaking here? Right? Type them in the chat box. I can type it here too in the chat box, Joe. Let me see. Right. So we see we have got vivid verbs. We've got amazing. I call them amazing adjectives. Amazing adjectives. We've got adverbs, which we should be careful when using. Too much of them is bad. Then we've got imagery, which includes sensory details plus figurative language. Now, are you aware of the figurative language, the different devices? Can you name them?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Simile, metaphor,
Mm-hmm.
alliteration,
Very good.
hyperbole,
Good.
onomatopoeia.
Mm-hmm. Very
I only
nice.
know. And that what do you call? No, alliteration. Yes.
Yeah, and then we've got anaphora, we've got hyperphora, we've got chiasmus, we've got different techniques, different. There's so many literary devices, right? Okay, since we're exploring non-fiction, fiction, it's going to be a little different. Okay, let me just zoom it in a little bit. Trying to, oops. Okay. I think I cannot do it any further. Okay, that's great. Now, writer's effect questions assesses your understanding of the way writers use language for specific effects. We just talked about it, right? Shape the writer's response to characters, situations, and ideas. Have you found yourself ever feeling very sympathetic towards a character, or you really despise a character while reading a story? Yes,
Sometimes.
sometimes, and the reason is the writers use language in that way. Okay, excuse me. Okay, so we need to first of all understand if we are really trying to explain the writer's effect, we should understand and we should correctly know the literary terminology. As we mentioned, different literary devices, we talked about them, right? So we should also not confuse them with others, but rather we should be able to correctly explain them in our explanations. Next comes the language choices at word level and phrase level. Why? Because when you're explaining your writer's effect, you are also supposed to explain the role or function of certain words within the given example. All right, for example, Jim stormed out of the room. So you also need to comment on stormed out. Just give me a minute, okay? 2 minutes, please. Can you hear me? Okay, so now let's get into the details here. Word level, phrase level. How to analyze the language? We need to understand the strength and shades of the words, which means we should be able to comment on the choice of the words the writer makes and what is that particular words or phrases role or function in accurately communicating the writer's intended meaning. Okay, we should also be able to comment on the shades of words. There are two differences here, shades of words and connotations. I'm going to explain to you in a bit. All right, and we should also be able to analyze language through imagery. Again, same comment, same style, same technique, but we need to be able to focus on verbs, adjectives, adverbs, imagery, and then, of course, when we say these are all words though. So for these words, we should be able to comment on the connotations and shades of meaning. Okay, what I mean by that, I'm going to explain it to you in a bit. Any questions?
No, ma'am, no such yet.
Okay, whenever you have a question, please do not hesitate. What did I say?
Do not
Please
hesitate.
don't hesitate. Okay, this is the reason we are here. Okay. All right, so they just do not want to create a particular emotional response. Why do they create a writer's effect? Why do I need to create a writer's effect to communicate meaning when I can say something in a very straightforward manner? Number one, we do not want to make the readers bored. Yeah, it's the failure of a writer when the reader is bored and puts the book away outright. Number two, yes, we try to use a hook to capture their attention. That's usually what we know about it. Speeches hooks, letters hooks, stories hooks. So, hook is basically the effective use of any writing technique in the beginning of any writing piece. Clear? So, we use different techniques to capture the reader's attention to create a hook. Then comes we want to communicate and convey a strong emotional response, or we show how the writer is approaching the topic or what is the writer's viewpoint. And sometimes, if it's a very strong viewpoint, we use very strong words as writers. Like, let's say, we condemn the attack on the Palestinian innocent children, or we condemn. So, the word condemn itself is a strong word. Yeah, if it's a speech about that. So, the writers want to they communicate their own the degree of their response or emotional response to the topic or to the idea by using certain words, and those words play a strong role. As I said, condemn, it has got a very strong meaning there. If we say different words, we can find different words for condemn, but the effect the word condemn has, it's a little, object has a very different effect on that. We object is a little subtle, isn't it? Yeah, are you getting it now?
Yes.
Yeah. On the other hand, condemn has a stronger effect. So, this is how the connotation of the word condemn plays a rather stronger role here. All right, and and the shades of meaning as well. Next comes, we want to create a sensory image. If we want to create descriptions, we want to really take the reader to the scene. We want to create sensory images, but we are not going to use this language as we're talking. Okay, enhancing the reader's understanding of the character's attitudes or actions or behaviors. Create a vibrant setting as a backdrop. Okay, Nile. All right. Just when you're back, please let me know. Okay, you need to speak up. Right. Welcome back. All right. So let's talk about the um, don'ts. What should we not do when writing the writer's effect? Now, I've got a complete template for IGCSE exam where you are starting off with the overall effect of the language and then you move on to describing and explaining the phrases and words. All right, in order to create a certain effect on the readers. So, but before that, that's what we are going to do in our upcoming sessions. Before that, we need to get our basics right, okay? And sometimes to learn how you should really do what, how should you do something, sometimes the don'ts play a big role. So this is one big don't that you must not do. Can you just read them quickly?
Ma'am, starting from commenting.
Yeah.
When commenting on any of these effects, it is best to avoid using general phrases such as it draws the reader in, it makes the reader want to read on, it makes the reader feel as though they are there, it helps the reader know what is in the character's mind, it paints a strong visual image in the reader's mind. Instead, make clear and precise links to the language you are discussing. Make sure your analysis engages with the text at word level.
Very key point. Okay, what did you learn here? Do you find yourself make these mistakes?
Yes, I sometimes do.
There we go. Okay, so these are the things we are not supposed to do. Okay, why? It draws the reader in. Okay, when we I write it, when I as a student write this sentence, it draws the reader in. What is my audience learning? They don't know what exactly I'm talking about. It makes the reader want to read on. Very cliche, very basic, very boring. Nobody wants to read this sentence in the writer's effect question. Okay, it makes the reader feel as though they are there. Again, boring, terrible. It helps the reader know what is in the character's mind. When you say what is in the character's mind, the question arises, what exactly is in the mind? You're not answering that part, right? It paints a strong visual image in the reader's mind. What kind of visual image? So we are going to just make sure that we are not going to repeat these sentences. Rather, we are going to comment at word level. And when we say word level, we need to consider the connotations as well as the shades of meanings. Okay. Let me just type it quickly. So for word level, we need to look at the connotations, shades of meaning, and devices, commenting on their role in, in conveying meaning, intended meaning, as well as creating the effect. Okay, now let's practice all of
मामा ये
this.
पेन ही नहीं चल रहा. ये पेन ही नहीं चल रहा. तो पेन दूसरा चला लो. ये भी नहीं चल रहा. बाकी पेन किधर है? ऊपर है माँ, फिर कुछ मिस हो जाएगा. फुल पेन है, पता नहीं कैसे नहीं चल रहा. देखिए कितना अच्छा स्टेडलर का पेन है. दिया तो है तुम्हें पेन. और ये चल जाए 5.
Okay, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right. Are you done with the pen? In the meantime,
Oh,
we
I
can
left my
discuss.
mic on.
That's okay. In the meantime, as you get the other pen, let's work
I,
on the
I got
discussion.
it. I got it.
Okay. Did we understand? So when we say we need to focus on, let's completely zoom in and we need to talk about the word level. And when we say commenting on the word level, we want to talk about the connotations, the different feelings different words evoke, the feelings and associations that a particular word has. It evokes a certain feeling. We talked about the word condemn. What feelings does this one particular word evoke? Is it like very strong or subtle feelings? What kind? Yes?
Yes. I
Okay,
thought you were.
I'm
I thought you
asking.
were not.
No,
Oh,
I'm asking. Strong, right? And the word object, again, um, negative, but not too negative. So if we put these words on a on a on a timeline, or on a gradient, we call these words well, by the way, these are called semantic gradients. So we would put condemn on far right, whereas the word object would be somewhere towards right, but somewhere in the middle, not after the word condemn. So, but there's a completely different discussion here. But I hope you get the idea. Yes? Questions? Another important thing, please do not use the language of the phrase in your own explanation. So let's say you are given a complete paragraph and you pick the example from here, and you say, okay, Jim stormed out of the classroom and stormed out of the library, and okay, let's say Jim rushed to the librarian, slammed his books on her table, and yelled, "How dare you!" Now, if you are going to repeat the same words of the quotation in your answer, you are not going to make any difference. So you always need to think, I am going to use in my explanation easy language that's easy to understand, and I'm going to crack open the words. What? What technique am I talking about? Crack open the keywords. You are going to crack open the keywords. What do you mean by that? What do you understand by that? Nile, are you there?
Yes, I am there.
Did you understand that? What do I mean by crack open the keywords?
It means to find them or explain.
To explain them, okay? Which means, so in this particular example, Jim slammed the door or slammed his book on the table. He yelled, stormed in, or stormed out. You are going to pick within the picked example, you are going to pick the words which are very vivid and clear, and which play a significant role, and then you are going to explain them in your own words. All right, that's what it means in easy terms. Simply naming literary devices will not help at all. The writer uses similes, the writer uses metaphors in order to, then you need to attach in order to. The writer uses simile, quote the simile, in order to, right? Describe the reader's emotional response without explaining it fully, which makes the reader feel this way. So, if you're not connecting the word which is creating a particular feeling for the writer, for the reader, then it's going to be futile. It will not help. All right, let's take a look at certain examples here. Okay, but before that, okay, I'm going to take you to this one. I've got a technique here. We call it DQAR as though effect. What? Can you see all of that? Number one, device, quotation, accurate verb, reason role, as though, effect. Let's copy it down quickly. Can we do that?
Yes.
So it's a shortcut for my students. It's like a formula that I give my students to help them write and comment in a better way. Okay, write the writer's effect properly. So device means the child should be able to identify the device, include the name of the device in the example, along with explanation, of course. So device, then comes quotation, then comes accurate verb. I'll explain what it is, all of it, okay? Reason slash role. Then we've got as though, or seems, or as if. Okay, these are also like, it's again a formula. So, and then effect. You can, because I have shared these pictures already with you on Google Classroom, you can download from there, keep them with you. And I'm posting it in the chat box also for you, so you know, right? Now, what exactly is all of that? Let's talk about it. We are going to read two examples. from two students, okay? And then we'll see which student does a better job, okay? So, Nile, I'm going to ask you this question. So, first of all, what are you going to do? We are going to read these two examples, and then we'll see how each student is doing in terms of identifying language first and then commenting on it, okay? Clear? So, can you please start? Read student
Yes.
A's first response. Yeah, this one, first sample. Okay, by the way, the example was this. Yeah, can you read this paragraph first?
As she looked out of the open door, her stomach dropped. It was high, very high. The land below was a patchwork quilt, featuring browns of different shades, and was tottering precariously near the sharp edge, with an increasingly strong breeze buffeting her. Her heart started to race, and she could feel a warm flush rising through her body. Her limbs began to tremble uncontrollably. She felt woozy and lightheaded. "Are you ready?" shouted her instructor. "Jump." She dropped like a stone, plummeting and hurtling downwards with her eyes tightly shut. Then she felt herself spiraling and spinning as she frantically tried to remember the instructions to hold her arms and legs out wide. All of a sudden she felt a whoosh, and up she rose as her fall was miraculously broken. Now it was like she was floating on a sea of air as she looked up and saw the billowing sails of the parachute above her.
Okay, so the meaning, first of all, what's happening here?
Can you repeat the question?
What's happening here? You read the whole passage. What is happening here? Like, what is the main idea? Who is she?
She is a skydiver.
There we go. What is she doing?
She is jumping out of a plane.
There we go. All right. So the first paragraph is all about
It's
before.
all about how the land looked below her as she dropped.
Okay, let's talk about it again. The first paragraph is she looked out of the open door. Her stomach dropped. It was high, very high. The land below was a patchwork quilt featuring browns of different shades. She was tottering precariously near the sharp edge with an increasingly strong breeze buffeting her. Her heart started to race, and she could feel a warm flush rising through her body. Her limbs began to tremble uncontrollably. She felt woozy and lightheaded. These lines, starting from here, so basically it's her feelings. Just a sec. Control C. Her feelings before she jumped out in the air, right? So her feelings start from here. Okay, let me just change the color. So it's not only what's happening, but also her feelings while she is at a certain stage. All right. So this part and then this part as well. Her limbs began to tremble uncontrollably. That's the body's gesture in response to her inner feelings, right? What's her heart feeling at the time? It's pounding, it's racing, right? And then what she's seeing outside that resulted in her stomach being dropped. And then she's describing what's out there. The land below, the writer's explaining what's out there, describing what's out there. The land below was a patchwork quilt featuring browns of different shades. She was tottering precariously near the sharp edge. Again, her actions and then her feelings. So most of it is centered around the characters' of feelings in response to what she saw and what was she experiencing. Right? Is that clear? Now,
Yes.
the question may ask you to pick any vivid example and explain the writer's effect. What is the writer intending to communicate? So let's go and see what these students have done and which one is better. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at different examples and two samples the students have written. We're going to choose which one is better. Okay, and how we can phrase them and what parts of our formula are they explaining well. Okay, student A1. So he's picked one example, which is, okay, please would you start reading now? Yeah.
Shouldn't A, right?
Can you see it on your
Uh,
screen?
the land below was a patchwork guilt is a
Quilt.
metaphor that.
It's a quilt.
Oh, I can't see.
Oh, all right. Let me just zoom in once more. Okay, better yet? Oh, this
Yes,
is how the quilt is written in this cursive writing.
I thought it was a G.
Oh, okay. That's okay. I'm trying to zoom in more. ठीक है चलिए let's go. Okay.
The land below was a patchwork quilt is a metaphor that creates a strong visual image of what she could see for the reader. It makes the reader want to read on to see what happens to her next.
Okay, so is the writer, step number one, we're going to take a look at the device. Is the writer able to identify the device, the literary
Yes,
device?
the metaphor.
There we go. Yes. Then is the writer able to comment on the role this device is playing? This example, this quotation is playing, and the writer was able to identify it was a metaphor. Was the writer able to quote the example, the right example, quotation? This one
Mm,
in the
ma'am,
quotation marks.
isn't the metaphor the quotation?
It is. So the writer has done two things together. So the writer has quoted it and the writer has correctly identified the device, right? Both are
Yes.
correct. Is the writer able to use a strong, accurate verb to explain its role, the identified device's role? The writer says, here the student says, it creates a strong visual image. Okay, the writer has tried to talk about or explain the role, but this is where the writer goes wrong of what she could see for the reader. Now, this is exactly we are not clear about. Strong visual image, but what kind of image? Does that make you ask this question? Yes, of what she could see for the reader. Does the writer explain what was she exactly seeing? No. So this also, these two phrases, a strong visual image and what? These two things make us question what exactly is it, right? That is why it's a very weak writer's effect explanation. Make sense? Now, it makes the reader want to read on. It's the same mistake that we just discussed that you should never make. Yep.
Yes.
And
I accidentally left the meeting.
yeah, okay, that's fine. I was like continuing. So you get the idea to see what happens to next her. What happens next? Here we are going to now take a look at the other one. So the writer is able to identify the device, quote the example properly, but the writer was unable to accurate use an accurate verb. It did say creates an image, creates an accurate verb, okay, but the writer was not able to comment on the reason of using that, a reason for the writer to use that device, or the role this device plays in communicating meaning and creating effect. The writer did not use the phrase as though, as if. Okay, that's another tip for you. While explaining, you can write as though or as if to explain and expand your explanation, and the final sentence should be the effect on the reader. Okay, let's take a look at the second example from another student. Can you read this one now? The metaphor. Okay. Okay, Nile, I'm waiting. Come as you join back. Right, Nile, are you here? Nile, I can't hear you. You are there, but I just can't hear you. Resume. Okay, so we are going to now read the second paragraph. Can we do that?
Yes.
Please start.
Uh, the metaphor, the land before below was a patchwork quilt, emphasizes how high up she is because each field looks tiny and she can see lots of them below her. It also makes it seem as though each field is a square in a different color spread out below her. The writer is deliberately using a metaphor of a familiar household item to enable the reader to imagine the scene effectively.
Is this a better version of the writer's effect question?
Yes, it
Why?
also conveys the meaning.
Absolutely. All right. So let's comment on the use in the explanation. Okay, is the writer, the student, able to identify the device correctly? D for device. Yes. Yes. Metaphor. Is the writer able to quote the correct example of that device correctly? Yes. The land below was a patchwork quilt. Okay, here are the keywords. We need to understand, we need to find the keywords as well for us to explain in our explanations. Okay, so land below, I'm going to discuss this one. Like if I were a student, I would definitely do that. Or before that, I would just comment on patchwork quilt first. Okay, why? I will tell you. The metaphor quotation, the land below was a patchwork quilt, quotation closed. Now the writer is commenting while using an accurate, powerful verb. Is the writer able to use a proper, powerful, accurate verb? Yes. The writer uses emphasizes. You can use highlights, explains, exemplifies, details, elaborates, explains, describes. These are powerful verbs that you should be using to lead you into the correct writing of the explanation. Okay, so when the writer says emphasizes what? Now, the other student wrote that creates a strong visual image. And then we said, okay, what is it? So here the writer is now explaining the image, okay? The student. So emphasizes how high up she is. Which word makes her say so, high up? The quotation to the word below in the quotation, right? So what did the writer do here? Let me say I can select a wibbly wobbly line. So the word below was used here. So we can see that, right? Below connecting with the word high up. Explanation. Make sense? Nile, are you there? Please don't tell me you've left again. Nile, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, beta, please tell me now. You're there. Okay. Did you get it? That in the explanation, the writer picked another keyword below and the writer explained it by, in his explanation, how high she was. Okay. Because each field looks tiny and she can see lots of them below her. So now the writer is, the student is able to use reason and role. Yes or no?
Yes.
The writer, the student is giving, I'm so sorry, I'm using writer again and again, it's the student, okay? Because the student sample, answer we're reading of the writer's effect question. Now you need to repeat similar process at least how many times in your answers?
Three.
6. You have to pick
Oh,
6
oh,
examples.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
You have,
because you will
yeah,
pick six
three in
examples.
each,
Yes,
three in
three in
each
each paragraph.
paragraph.
Absolutely. So you have to pick 3 examples from each paragraph. So in total you will have examples. So you need to really crack open, and this formula can also help you. But for IGCSE, I've got another sample formula that also works wonder. But this is basically what I'm doing here is to help you really fulfill the requirements of the ingredients you want to see in the answers. Got it? The student is able to comment on the device. The student is able to quote it correctly. The student is able to use an accurate power verb, which actually communicates the answer. Then the student is able to pick the word and explain their meaning. Okay. Then the student is also giving the reason or role. Why the writer emphasizes how up she is, because each field looks tiny and she can see lots of them below her. So the word below explained that she was automatically so high up, and it was because she was so high up, and everything below her, the fields, they were square in shape, which looked very similar to a quilt. You know what's a quilt? A patchwork quilt. Have you ever seen patchwork?
Yes, the different boxes, right?
Yes, absolutely. So there are different boxes. So the fabric, square pieces of different fabrics are joined together to make a nice quilt. So it ultimately makes us see or believe that the land below was square. So I would also say, because each field looks tiny, each field is is square shape and tiny, and she can see lots of them below her. That can look like a patchwork. Okay, but we are not using the word in our explanation, right? So that is why we're going to crack open the word patchwork, and we can say squared shape, or squared shape below her, the land pieces. It also makes it seem as though. Now the writer is explaining even more. The student is explaining even more, as though or as if. Use that. Okay. It also makes it seem, or we can say the writer also makes it as though um, each field is a square in different color, in a different color, spread out below her. So the writer, the student is explaining it further, because the student thought, oh, it is just in the first sentence I have just explained below, the word below, right here, but then I need to really explain the word patchwork. So the writer talks about here the word patchwork and explains it also makes it seem as though each field is a square in a different color, spread out below her. The writer is deliberately using a metaphor of a familiar household item to enable the reader to imagine the scene effectively, or in order for the reader to. Okay, now it's a nice way to really understand different elements that you can comment on, but I've got a particular formula. Again, that's another one. That's something that we're going to do next week. Okay. For the time being, we are working on this one first. Okay, let's take a look at another example here. Two examples here. So I'm going to zoom out. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Student C. Can you read this one? Tottering precariously before she jumped out.
Okay. The student C.
Hmm. Yeah.
Student C. The writer uses the phrase tottering precariously to show that her footing feels insecure as she feels as though she could fall out at any minute. This creates tension, which is affect.
Which is in effect. Okay, so okay, I think this student C could have done a better job also, don't you think so?
Um, Ma'am, do all of the students have to use one example or both?
No, each, because see, we are using one example to two student samples, and another example, tottering precariously, two students. So we are using different examples in that from the text, right? And two students are commenting on them. All right,
Okay.
so you're seeing how which student is doing better, right? So student D, what does the student D write?
Student D, the phrase tottering precariously makes the reader feel afraid. This makes the reader want to read on to find out what happens next.
Hmm. So which one is better? Okay.
I think that student C did a better job.
He does a better job, but there are still some things that are missing. So let's start commenting on them. Okay. The writer uses the phrase tottering precariously. Okay, it is a phrase. The writer was able to identify the technique. It's a phrase. I would say here the student could have talked about the way tottering means, what exactly tottering means. Yes, and precariously means at a risk. That he's explained very well. That she could fall out at any minute. Um, Tottering is, yes, her footing feels insecure. So yes, the reason behind tottering was feeling insecure, that the writer is also doing a better job at. So the writer was able to identify the device. The writer quoted the device properly. It was a phrase. Yes, the writer could yeah, the writer has used an okay verb to show. We can also say to describe or to emphasize the characters in a insecurity as she approaches the edge of the open door. As she, and then quote karke we could say, as she totters towards the door, which shows her inner insecurity, right? Or inner fear. And she feels as though, so the writer is also able to use as though, okay, she could fall out at any minute. So this precariously has been explained here, she could fall out at any minute. And tottering has been explained with the reasoning, that the reason behind tottering was her footing feels insecure, her inner feelings of insecurity manifested in her tottering towards the open door that was open at a very height. This creates tension. Now this is okay, I would say that's an okay answer. This could have been even a better one. So let's take a look at another example. And we I would like you to now, okay, let's do one thing. I want you to rewrite it using this structure. Okay, just use any structure, but make sure that you do, oops, okay, you do fulfill the requirements. You can do it, use the chat box. Okay, you've got the examples in front of you. So let's do this student C and D example first. Tottering precariously. Explain it first in your own words.
Ma'am, should I explain while speaking on this chat box?
Right, chat box, because it will help you delete and
So
then
I should follow the format of student A or B or C or D.
which one do you think is better?
I think
B. Student B is a better
B.
one. Yeah, yeah. Try to
Yeah,
use
he
student B.
he also wrote the most.
Yes. Okay. It's not about the most, it's about explanation in the correct line. Okay. Remember that. Okay, if I get disconnected, I'm going to share another link with you on Google Classroom. All right. Okay. The land below was a patchwork quilt. Okay. You can use the okay. You can use any order at the moment because it's the beginning. So I'd like you to take any order. That's perfectly fine. But it's not mandatory to use only student B's. Okay. Can you read this out loud?
Okay. The metaphor, the land below was a patchwork quilt. This elaborates the distance of her and the ground below her. She can see so less of the ground that it is said the land was a patchwork quilt comprising of boxes which are fields. The writer is using this because it tells clearly how far she was from the ground, makes the scene clear to the reader, and creates amazement among the reader.
Okay, let's improve that together. Okay, can we do that? So what I'm going to do is I'm
Okay.
going to just copy it. I'm going to use the this side. All right. Let's try to let's use a box here. So you are using the same example. Okay. Control A. Okay. Is that clear to you? The metaphor, the land below was a patchwork quilt. Okay, Nile, first things first, I wanted you to explain tottering precariously in this style. Anyway, I'm going to now look at the way you have explained it, okay? All right? The metaphor, the land below, was a patchwork quilt. First of all, did you attack the keywords? So, this is the keyword one, patchwork quilt, land below. So, these are the two keywords, okay?
Yes.
The metaphor, the land below was a patchwork quilt, elaborates, accurate verb is done, good. ठीक है sorry. Great, you've done this, you've identified this, you've quoted the example as well, good. So, elaborates the distance of her and the ground below her. Okay, elaborates or mm, exaggerates or emphasizes, right? Elaborates. Okay, this is perfectly fine. The distance between um her and the ground below her, right? So I would say instead of you would say between. Okay, her and the ground below her as she gets as she gets ready. Was it like before jumping out or as she jumps out?
Ma'am, below, before jumping when she looks at the ground.
Okay, so as she readies herself for the jump. Okay, so now we can see that the writer, we have explained which phrase, the first phrase, the land below. Okay, now she can see so less of the ground. Now you're explaining it also. She can see so less of the ground that it is said that the land was a patchwork quilt comprising. Okay, why what makes you say that she could see just less of the ground? Which word in this example? Come on, try. Okay. Or if you want to change
Ma'am,
it,
I don't know.
okay. Always say, I don't know yet. I'll figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out. I think I can change it. All right?
Okay.
Okay. So do you think we can change this part? So less of the ground?
Yes.
Okay, let's change it then. All right? So let's try to remove this part and say something else. So, as she readies herself for the jump, so we have added this description to make it clear for the reader. the examiner, okay? She can see what on the ground. Now let's change that. Numerous what? Numerous square
Squares that are fields.
land fields. Square, okay, square
Fields.
fields, because we're not repeating the land word now. She can see numerous square fields below her. Okay. Um, below her, up from the distance, okay, from above, right? That seem as if, okay, what did I say? You can say as though or as if, right? That it seems as though, that seem, it seems as though they are like tiny square pieces of land seamed together. ठीक है? What is patchwork में होता क्या है? What is basically patchwork? They are seamed together, stitched together, okay? Now, are we explaining instead of using the word patchwork? Did we explain it now?
Yes.
ठीक है? Do you think that makes sense now?
Yes.
I like this boxes, okay, square boxes, okay? Square pieces of land or square, which one do you like to keep? Boxes or pieces?
I think boxes is fine.
Huh, I think we can use boxes instead of square pieces. We can say square boxes of field. Square boxes of fields seamed together. Now let's read that part. Can you just read it now in a flow? Yes.
The metaphor, the land below, was a patchwork quilt, elaborates the distance between her and the ground below her. As she readies herself for the jump, she can see numerous square fields below her from above, that it seems as though they are like tiny square boxes of fields seamed together.
You know what's a
The
seam?
writer is
What's a seam?
seamed.
Yeah, not
I know seam
yeah.
is the thread in a cricket
Stitched.
ball.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay. It's all basically a stitch line. So when you seam it together, you stitch it together. Okay, so it's like a seam. Okay. The writer is
Okay.
using this because it tells clearly how far she was, how above from the ground she was. Because afar makes me think, oh, she is on the ground, but she's away, far away. But when we say, because this entire piece is all about how above she was in the air, how far above she was in the air from the ground. So you can say the writer is using this because it tells clearly, the writer's use of quotation clearly explains how far above she was from the ground, making the scene clear, making it clear to the reader, which creates amazement among the reader. Okay, this can be, we can remove some parts from here as well. We don't have to necessarily follow student B, okay? But it's because I'm assuming it is all the first time work from scratch, so I'm using this part. All right? Okay, just give me a minute, beta. Give me a minute, please.
And
All right. Okay. Clear now? All right, Nile, can you hear me? Let's move to the next part.
Yes.
All right, let's move to the next part now. I'm going to give you this as homework. I will just post it on Google Classroom. Like I'm assigning it to you now. We've got student A to student N. So I want you to do this for drop like a stone, for tottering precariously on your own. All right, let's take a look at the third example together. And then I will also ask you to write explanation fulfilling the requirements of quotation, device, accurate verb, and then all of that, all as if or as though, and then effect with the reason and rule. Make sense? Niall, so far, what have you learned that you did not know before I move on to the third example?
Ma'am, I learned a lot. I learned how to structure the meaning and effect examples, uh, like identify the figurative language used, and along with that, the what do you call
We need to quotation, use the quotation.
the yes, the need to quotation, the effect it creates, and why the writer uses such figurative language in
Absolutely.
the paragraph.
The role it plays and the reason it is used, because that's the most important. So let's take a look at student
and
E's example.
and
Hmm.
how to relate the figurative language with the story.
So Niall, how were you writing before this question?
Ma'am, I was just writing the example and the meaning effect, not not the identification of figurative language.
Hmm.
And my and my and how I wrote the effect was also very weak before.
Okay, this is not the final one. It is, as I said, it's the intro today. Okay, so once we are good with this one, I
Okay.
make you write like at least 4 or 5 examples. Once you know exactly what ingredients are required, I'll give you another structure, as I said, which is specifically proven to give full like higher marks range 15, 12, 13. That's what you're going to follow. Okay, this is to practice as much as you can, as much as you can. Why? This is going to help you big time. It's not wrong, but this will actually develop the core part of your explanations. Okay, so let's read student E's example here. Okay, please start.
Student E, the simile dropped like a stone shows that she fell quickly in a straight line. It makes it sound as though she is completely helpless, as though she and a dead weight. It emphasizes how fast she is falling, which creates tension for the reader. The writer
Okay, before
says
we move
drop
on,
like a
okay, okay, stop here. We're going to see first student E's example. Okay, let's analyze this one. The writer is able to name the device. Yes. Quote the
identify
device.
the example.
There. Yes, please continue. I want you to now take the lead. Come on. Yes.
The writer shows the figurative language used, shows what figurative language he used, the example, and what the figurative language shows about the paragraph.
Hmm.
And then he further explains it that she is completely helpless and what emphasizes it. And lastly, he tells about the effect that it creates tension for the reader.
Okay, great. Now I'm going to now elaborate two things. There are different ways you can take this question in different directions. Okay, so the simile dropped like a stone shows that she fell quickly. So the writer is giving us the meaning. Okay, dropped like a stone shows that she fell quickly and in a straight line. Not only the pace but also the direction or the shape. Okay, it makes it sound as though. As we said, we need to comment on using as though or as if, right? As though she's completely helpless and dead weight and a dead weight. Now this is basically the reason behind it, the role this particular device is using there, playing here. Okay, um, it may be the reason for the writer to use this simile. Because she dropped like a dead weight and completely helpless, she couldn't do anything, so it was easy for her to be compared with a stone. Did you see that? So this allows us to comment on the reason for the writer to use this simile, this example, this comparison with a stone. Make sense?
Yeah, yes, yes,
Now,
it
there are
does.
two types of effects. Always remember. One effect is on the reader, another is in the text. So, what kind of effect this particular phrase is having on the overall text? It emphasizes how fast she's following. So, it is focusing on the speed. Okay, but at the same time it is also allowing us to comment on the effect on the reader, tension for the reader. Yes, it's an okay version, an okay answer. We can still make it better. Okay, let's read student F. The writer says, dropped like a stone, to make the reader feel afraid that she's going to be hurt. This is a simile because she's being compared to a stone. A stone isn't like a person, so this is a writer's effect. Whoa. Student F, Hanji beta, how much will you give to student F? How many marks? Yes.
Ma'am, marks out of how much?
Out of 10, okay, let's say 10.
Around 7.
Student F, this one. This one.
Oh, right. I'll give him around 4 because he hasn't told us what figurative language used,
Hmm.
and he quickly goes on with the effect that the reader feels afraid she is going to be, what is it, hurt,
Hurt.
and
No
and
connections.
and and
Hmm.
and no connections. Yes,
Hmm.
the simile is said at the second last sentence
Hmm.
that she is being compared to a stone,
Without any reason.
and yes, and a stone isn't a person. He says so. This is writer's effect.
This is a funny statement. No?
Yes,
Okay.
he said
So,
dropped like a stone.
yeah, absolutely. So the writer was unable to comment on the reason for the comparison of the dropping like a stone. Dropped like a stone because she felt deadless, she was weightless. Number two, how fast she fell down. So this explanation comments on the speed and being helpless and dead weight at the same time. On the other hand, this explanation does not make any effort to really compare the reason, explain the reason for the comparison. As we said, writers use language for certain reasons. They have so many choices, but they make certain choices because they have certain thing in their mind. Okay. Okay, student G. The words plummeting and hurtling downward. So what I'm going to do is here, mm, I am going to give you and assign you this one, all the three examples. Okay, so you have the passage with you, so I'm going to give you this one. um, do you have the image for this one? I guess you do, right? So all the highlighted lines you need to explain in your writer's effect answer. All right, in the same manner, all you need to do is just open a doc or do it by hand. That's better because you have to attempt your paper by hand, right? So, but you can definitely paste it right there with you, have it in front of you. So, same examples, I want you to do it on your own, keeping in mind the techniques I've told you. We need to comment, identify the technique, quote, accurate verbs should be used. We need to give the reason for the use of this technique or the role this technique is playing or this device is playing in giving the meaning. I talked about using the phrase as though or as if, and the effect in the text or effect on the reader. Make sense?
Yes.
All right, so you've got the homework, and I received the previous ones as well, but I was like so busy with the essays as I told you, the college essays, my students' essays. So I'd like definitely give you time, and I'll give you because you are available. I am there on Google Classroom. You're still there on Google Classroom till your exam day. So I'll check and I'll give you feedback right there, okay? Because it was all piled up for me. I wasn't also well this week, so didn't get time to really check them.
Okay.
Right. So now we are left with some time. Should I give you? I don't want to like. Okay, another task, classwork. Okay. So let's move on to this one now. Mm, strong breeze buffeting her. She felt woozy and lightheaded. Let's start writing an explanation for these phrases. Okay. Here you'd be able to talk about what? Can you do it here? I
Ma'am,
can
what does buffeting mean?
find out. If you don't know, try to use context clues.
It means covering her.
Okay. What else?
Buffeting.
Striking, pushing.
Okay.
Okay. And not once, but twice or more than twice. Like pushing something hard. Okay. So can you just write it in the chat box or on your docs and share it with me? Strong breeze buffeting her. This is the phrase, and the context is right there in front of you. It was somewhere here. Hmm. Yeah, here. Near the sharp edge with an increasingly strong breeze buffeting her. This part. Okay, this is your example here. I'm gonna make it in different color. This line. Yes. There you go. Explain strong breeze buffeting her. Right, are you done? How much is done so far? Yes, Niall.
Ma'am, I've written it in the chat box.
Hmm. Please read that out loud.
The writer using the personification, the strong breeze buffeting her. This is giving the wind human qualities as it is pushing her continuously while she is onlooking the ground below her. The writer uses this to create suspense and fear among the readers as she is being continuously pushed by the wind off the plane.
Okay, can you also comment on the okay. All right, can we just do it again? Let's say, okay, I'm going to like just model something for you here, okay? On the screen, in the box. Right. It's done very nicely,
Ma'am,
I must say. You've done a good job there. Yes.
ma'am, is the example personification?
Buffeting, yes. Breeze buffeting her, yes. But breeze, well, the breeze air has its own power, wind has its own power. So yes, you can say that the writer personifies the wind. That's better. Okay. Let me just fill the box with something. Okay. The writer uses personification. Okay. The writer is using personification, strong breeze buffeting her. Okay, here you could do one thing. Comment on the word strong and then commenting on buffeting. So you've commented on buffeting and then you've explained the strength here. Breeze buffeting. Breeze is usually what? Can you tell me the connotations of the word breeze has? Like what connotations does it have? What is a breeze? First, okay.
A gentle wind.
A gentle wind. And here it's strong breeze, which means what?
The wind is strong.
Yes, it was the light wind turned strong. All right. So the once light breeze, which is, of course, we are not going to repeat the word breeze in our explanation. So we're going to say the wind that felt soft and gentle, not soft, let's say gentle a while ago, was now um, creating that push. So this is perfectly fine. The writer uses the personification strong breeze buffeting her. This is giving the wind human qualities as it is pushing her. You don't need to comment this part. You don't need to write this part. So you can just say, let me just do it for you. Okay. The writer's use of the adjective strong breeze allows for um, emphasizes or contrasts the power the once gentle अब I'm gonna do quote. You don't have to repeat, but आप quote कर सकते हो. You can quote them in your explanations. Okay. The writer uses you. I'm gonna like write. I'm focusing on strong and then relating it with breeze. Okay. The writer's use of the adjective strong contrasts the power, the once gentle breeze. You don't have to repeat, but we are quoting right now. Did you get it? Are you getting it? So strong breeze buffeting her. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just within this, you just need to add this part also by correcting it a little bit. The writer's use of the adjective strong contrasts the power the once gentle breeze had. gotten now. The gentle wind now seemed so powerful that it had um, started to push her. Now, you said continuously. Now, I am now moving on to the explanation of the word buffeting her, right? Um, the writer uses the uses or the writer uses buffeting in order to highlight or explain the power the wind possessed and explain the vulnerability of the character who could fall any minute by the continuous push of the wind. Maybe that you can do it that way. All right, but that's a good start, a very good start. What did I do just now? Don't get confused. Let's try to see what have we done here. It was not a device in my in the because I just I wanted to focus on the explanation of strong also. Did you see that? Yes, you were focusing on the buffeting. The writers using personification, you were able to identify the device. ठीक है. Quote, of course, this is as if it is pushing her continuously. Perfect. While she's on looking the ground below her. Very good. That's very nice. Um, the writer uses this to create suspense and fear among the readers as she is being continuously um, pushed by the wind of the plane. So, what different have I done here in this part? I have picked one example from within the quotation. Naila, you're there, beta.
Ma'am, you have picked gentle breeze.
I have picked gentle breeze, okay, and I have also related it with the power that it has now, because the word breeze has the meanings very soft, soft wind, right? Uh, so it is gentle by default, and it's got the connotations which are quite soft, easy, very positive, very nice, very happy. On the other hand,
Ma'am, can one ma'am,
yes,
can one example's meaning and effect be this long?
yes, of course, it can be. Why not? You are actually doing your best in
Approx
communicating.
Ma'am, approximately how many words can one example's meaning effect
What does
be?
the paper say? Does it say anything? Any
I
words?
think 250 to 350.
How to beta you can easily do it now. Let me just explain it to you. So let's say you are given this line now, strong breeze buffeting her. So how many words do we have here? We've picked strong breeze. What I did was I picked breeze because breeze has the positive connotations, and then now it has turned strong. So it is quite opposite. We can say it's like an oxymoron. Well, not exactly, it's oxymoron. Oxymoron is like completely two opposites, but it's just completely difficult to understand that a strong breeze is already there, so we always call it a wind when breeze turns so strong. So it was not exactly the wind, but it was now breeze which now was shaping into wind. Okay. The writer's use of the adjective, I identified the technique, the device, adjective, yes. Strong quotation कर लिया. Yes. Does what contrasts the power the once gentle breeze had gotten now from what it was earlier. Did you get it? A breeze never has the power to push, right? But the use of adjective strong now allows it to become powerful. Got it? Contrast the power
Yes.
the once gentle breeze had gotten now from what it was before. The gentle wind, which was like breeze, gentle wind, which means the breeze, now seemed so powerful that it had started to push her continuously. All right, non-stop. The writer uses buffeting. Now I'm moving on to another example. Buffeting. In order, the writer's use of the vivid verb buffeting highlights, I can do that, highlights the power the
वही है.
wind possessed. Just for 10 minutes, beta. Okay, 10 minutes. Okay, the writer use. Are you there, Niall? I can't hear you. The writer's use of the vivid verb buffeting highlights the power the wind possessed and explains the vulnerability of the character who could fall any minute. Now, the vulnerability is what? The effect on the character by the continuous push of the wind. Now, we can also comment on the effect on the reader. As you said, the writer uses this to create suspense and fear among the readers as she is being continuously pushed by the wind of the plane, right? This creates this creates fear and uncertainty for the readers. Got it? Nile, does that help?
Yes.
All right. Did
You
you see?
also
Mm-hmm. Yes,
you
please.
also used another word and explained it in another paragraph in the same phrase.
In the same phrase. So I have picked like two examples, like three examples: strong, breeze, buffeting. I've like actually opened it like in three parts and explained it in three parts, connecting with the reason, right? Because the wind had gotten that power. By the way, we could also add that now since the door was open, so it had gotten this powerful wind. The gentle wind now seemed so powerful. It had gotten now as the door was open. Okay, was now open, or as soon as the had gotten now as the door was open. Okay, so because we can give the reason why the wind, the this gentle breeze, this soft wind became so powerful or menacing. We can call it even menacing because it can throw her out. Yes, so we can say, oh, the breeze, the gentle breeze was so once gentle and soft breeze had gotten the menacing power. What is menacing? Or you can say uh, dis- uh, the destructive power. Okay, because she is now, this wind has got the menacing and destructive power to throw her down, right? Yes.
Yes, the wind has the power to push her off the plane.
There we go. We've given her the personality. Right now, what did you learn in today's session?
Ma'am, I learned how to do the meaning and effect question that is part of, I think, text C.
Hmm.
And we did different examples
Hmm.
of imagery, and I learned that when they say a paragraph, I have to annotate the imagery and write the meaning and effect of that. And also I learned how to structure my meaning and effect paragraphs.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this a question again. Can you just, as I say that, then as I ask you, answer me again, okay? What did you learn in today? So, what did you learn in today's session?
Ma'am, we learned how to attempt the text C meaning and effect question. In that, we also did the that we I have to annotate the imagery from the given two paragraphs, three imagery phrases from the each two given paragraphs,
Hmm.
and also along with that, I have to I learned how to attempt and structure my meaning effect answers, and basically, Yes, that's
Did it
it.
help today?
Yes, it did.
Okay, great. Okay, Niall, thank you. I'm going to end the session now. If you've got any questions, please let me know. I'm going to like push this assignment there again on Google Classroom so that you are all aware of the assignment and its due date. Okay. All right. Take care. Allah Hafiz.
Laugh is
Allah Hafiz.